should be in your books. There's stuff I wrote on the board.
We're planning workshop.
Okay, that's where we started yesterday. Where did we finish?
Interviewing and sounding stuff.
I got resume, ticket,
Resume is the ticket to the
ticket
show.
to the show.
Okay.
You must sell
So
yourself.
I was just on a phone call with this guy. I received an email this morning from Tony Shea.
That's the Zappos man, right?
Yeah. So here's an email. It seems to be a little bit slow today. This guy did a couple years in prison in Nevada because he got in a bar fight. And I guess somebody either got hurt badly or died. Did not qualify for Casa Grande. So he was at a fire camp up north.
Here in Nevada?
Yeah. Okay. So these are places where he has written, where he has had things published. He sent an email to Tony Shea saying, what I really want to do my main goal is to work with Zappos to do a pilot program where Zappos will hire people who learn his thing. So what he's done, so the problem is too many people in prison. His solution, I created a program that helps inmates get jobs upon release called Street Smartly. He created a national database, communicated directly with inmates, provided company customized courses to inmates while they're physically incarcerated. Our team works directly with companies creating. Okay, so this is all ideas. He doesn't actually do this. It's his idea. He wants to do it. So we reached out to Tony Shea to say, write me a check to do this. I'll teach inmates so that they can get jobs at Casa Grande. Well, Tony Shea says, hi, Andrew. I wanted to introduce you to Edward, who can let you know about some of the work he's doing. There might be an interesting connection there. Okay, so Tony Shea's a billionaire. And for him to go out of his way to do that means he thinks highly of the school. So I was on the phone with Eric, which is why we're 10 minutes late doing this. But it gets back to the same thing about employment planning. His thing is to help people get jobs, to do his course, which teaches them about Zappos. Then when they get out of Zappos, when they get out of prison, they have a job at Zappos. That's the idea. And it's one of those things that sounds good on paper. But do you think that the prison system is just going to let people do this?
No.
Run courses inside a prison just by mailing it to inmates? No, it's going to, you know, and the way they work is if you don't go to them first to say, may we do this, they shut you down And then they think you're a dangerous person because you will try to go behind our back. And you're an ex-felon, which he was. So we can't trust you. And then he wrote one of his papers is called 6 Life Hacks Learned in Prison That Will Maximize Your Productivity Time. So things to do while you're in prison to get better. Okay, some are so obvious that they shouldn't even be down. And when you put these and say, here's the thing that you need to do in prison to be more productive, get up early, it gets everybody else who's not in prison to think everybody that's in prison is lazy. Why do you need to tell people to get up early? Well, because they don't get up early. So now we're dealing with lazy people. This was in Time Magazine, by the way. Okay, get up early. Okay, so you're telling us people don't do that. Write every day. Okay, so people in prison don't write. Write to communicate effectively. Okay, the most advanced piece of technology that prison inmates have access to is the coveted number 2 golf pencil. Is that true here? You can't have pens? You can't get pens?
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, okay. So again, what are you doing? You're getting people not in prison to think that people in prison don't have stuff. So how could they possibly be ready to do anything if they're using little tiny pencils, if that's the most advanced technology you have? Read every day. Huh? People in prison don't read? This guy's giving people in prison advice. Read every day? Wow. Bootstrapping like an inmate. Now here's where it gets to be inmate behavior. I used to buy coffee for cheap on commissary because it sold out quickly. I would sell it to people looking for it once it was gone. I sold my meals and traded them for books. Okay, so here's a guy who's taking advantage of other inmates, right? I can afford to buy coffee, so I'm going to buy it on commissary, but I'm going to resell it to people who can't afford to buy it. Do you really want somebody like that working in your company? I wouldn't.
No.
Beating the system in the system.
Oh, no.
That sounds scary.
Yeah. Yeah, that's shady.
I figured out how to bend the rules in prison. You think Lieutenant Scally's going to want to beat this guy?
No.
You think Lieutenant Scally's going to want him to be teaching at Casa Grande? No.
Let me teach you how to deviate.
What did he say here? As entrepreneurs, we need to release the bondage society puts on us. If we're trying to change the world, we need to be comfortable with living the lives we all envision without the guilty feeling of not working. I don't know what that means. Bending the rules. Okay.
Others.
Not stoic. Okay. But he has an idea to help. And you can make tiny changes and things to say, well, okay, we're not going to use this kind of language. We're not going to paint ex-inmates. We're not going to paint inmates as people like we've seen in movies, like in French prisons, where they're literally are just sitting in there going crazy in their cell because they have nothing to do. That's not how we want society to think of it. Okay, anyway, so that's why the conversation I had, we're trying to get him to team up with us because we bring legitimacy to his ideas. And if he wants to be knocking on doors every day with employers to say, hey, we're training inmates to be your best employees. If he wants to do that, I told him we'd support him all day long. But I then said, our program is we want people to focus on what do you want to do? What do you want to do for your career? Not just to get money, but what is it that you would do? So this, for you, this is the starting point, the employment training workshop is to be proactive. What is the job you want? So what jobs have you had before?
Construction.
Okay, now let me ask you this question. If you could do anything, if you could have any job in the world, you've got one wish, in which you can have any job, they will hire you, but you have to be able to do the job. You can't say, I want to be president of Russia, okay, because you don't have the skills to be president of Russia. But what job would you have, or a job that you could learn quickly, that whatever you said, that's the job I want, at that company, what job would that be?
Own a construction business.
Okay. So to own a construction business, you have to have a license. To have a license, you have to pass tests. To be able to pass the test, you have to have the skills that you need to pass the test. So before owning a company, you might want to work at a company while you get those things, right? So what kind of construction company would you want to work at? What kind of construction?
That's being excavating.
Okay. So driving equipment? Okay, so my brother is one of the owners of a company called Country. Have you heard of them? Oh, they're statewide. They do big pipelines. They do 84-inch water lines. So a lot of places in town, they have the streets torn up, like Eastern's torn up, and Rampart has been torn up because they're putting in huge water lines. But he started out in high school being a grade checker for guys running backhoes. And then he just did that in his career and got to Country 10 or 15 years ago, was the number 3 guy at Country. And then the president of Country died. Cancer or something like that. He died, and he agreed before he died, because he didn't just drop dead, that he would sell the company to number 2 guy and number 3 guy. So now my brother is partners with number 2, and they have a very, very big equipment pipeline company, and they own their own equipment. They don't lease or rent equipment. Anyway, so if you wanted to do that, you'd have to know all of the things that you had to do to be at that level. So our employment planning thing is to be proactive and say, well, what is it that I would like to do? If I could have whatever job I wanted, what job would I want? Then you have to identify 3 to 5 employers who do that. And you need to research them. You need to know more about, so I'll write this down. So step, I think, 5. Identify employers. 3 to 5. Now you guys should be writing this down. Identify 3 to 5 employers, because you will not remember it. Tomorrow morning you'll come in and say, tell me one thing you remember from yesterday. If you don't write it down, you won't remember it. You won't have any place to go back and check. So you identify 3 to 5 companies, and then you say 5.1 research. Research them to the point where you know more about them than the interviewer. Okay?
Now, what if you're having a hard time or figuring out what it is? You just have to spend more time.
With what?
If you're having a hard time figuring out what it is you actually want to do, spend more time reflecting on it.
Okay, well, Hold on. California's saying they didn't get an invitation. Okay, so how old are you, Marty? 28. Okay. So at this stage in everybody's life, you should be able to answer the question, if I could have any job I wanted, what would I want? A lot of people don't. Okay? A lot of people don't. And so here is what mathematicians have figured out is how to know what that is. And they originally did it after World War II in what's called game theory. Okay, game theory. So there's a game called The Prisoner's Dilemma. These were done after World War II when the Cold War started with us in Russia, trying to figure out how to not create the end of civilization as we know it, by both sides dropping bombs. So mathematicians do these things, but they call them games, game theory. So one game was The Prisoner's Dilemma, which we're not going to talk about. Another one was called the traveling salesman problem. And then they did another one that was, how should you know, for women, how should you know who to marry, the marriage piece? Because the challenge for women is you date, and you don't get married. Then all of a sudden you reach a certain age where the dating decreases, the opportunities go down, the quality of the person that you would date doesn't appear to be as good as it was before. Okay? Up until this stage, most of the guys have never been married, don't have any kids. At a certain age, when you're in your 40s, it's very hard to find a good guy who's never been married and doesn't have any kids. So as a woman, you don't want to wait till you're 40 to get married, usually. So here's what they found, and it applies towards what your problem is. So they said, okay, well, what age do you want to get married? If you want to get married at 27, when you're 25, you stop and you think of all of the guys you've dated in your life. You figure out who is the best guy. The next person you date who is close to that person, stop looking, that's the guy you marry. Okay? So for Marty, okay, you want to get a job by a certain date, get a career. So you go back and you think of, what are the best jobs I've ever had? Because remember when I said to Jesus, you can have any job you want, but you have to have the skills to do the job. You can't say, I want to be president of Russia. Okay, so you have to have the skills. You have to be able to have the skills that they would hire you to have. So you say, you start with, what is the best job I've ever had? Okay, then you just start finding, look for jobs that are in kind of, you think are interesting. So this would be like a woman, okay, so she says, okay, the next guy I date who is like the best guy I ever dated, that's the guy I'm going to marry. Because what do women do up to that point? This is the best guy I dated. I'm going to wait to get somebody better, right? But at a certain point in time, they start being not better. And the same thing happens for employment. If you don't have a career by a certain date, pretty soon it becomes impossible to have a career. Because nobody wants to hire somebody who's 58 years old who's never had a career. Okay, you don't need to hire a 58-year-old guy to check the air pressure on tires. You hire an 18-year-old guy to do that, right? You don't hire somebody old. You don't hire somebody who's 48 years old to be, it's their first job as a roofer, right? What kind of construction do you do? Excavation? Okay, so you don't hire a 48-year-old guy to be a grade checker who's never done it before, right? Could be too hard to work. Or be, out there with the shovel. You just don't do it. So think of what is the best job you had or the best job you could have had that you didn't have, and then decide that's what I'm going to do. Okay, you just have to decide. So a problem people have today, and have had for a long time, is we're focused so much on the grass is greener over there, or in the TED Talk with Barry Schwartz of there's so many opportunities. Remember the thing about jeans? Who was here for the jeans?
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened with that?
Yeah, that's
He got the best pair of jeans he's ever had in his life, but how did he feel?
like you could have done better.
Yeah, he didn't feel good because he felt there was an even better pair of jeans. So you have to recognize when it comes to identifying employers, you could get stuck in a rut of, well, I just don't know what I want to do because I want to find the ideal job if it's going to be my career. So you can start with, do you like talking to people or do you like being alone? Do you like working with your hands? Morning. Do you like working with your hands? Do you like drawing? What is it that you like to do? And start narrowing it down to identify 3 to 5 companies. If you want to own your own company in the future, then a company that you would want to work for should be bigger companies that has policies and procedures. So have you heard of Perini Construction? Okay, so they do the big casinos. They're a $5 billion construction company. I have a nephew who decided he wanted to be in construction, big construction. So when he was in high school, he said, well, what's the best? To get into this big construction thing, I need to get a degree in construction management. Because you're not really doing stuff, right? If you're the guy building, casino downtown, not really the guy who's out there with the tools. You're making sure the guys that have the tools are doing what they're supposed to be doing, everything is scheduled right, because this is coming in today and next week, and we got to get the air conditioning put in. Anyway, so he decided he was going to get construction management. He decided of the construction management schools, he did his research and decided Nebraska has a good construction management program. He went to Nebraska. During the summers, he worked at construction companies, so he knew what it was like to actually work on jobs. His stepfather worked for Landry's, which owns a bunch of casinos, so they do have big building stuff going on, so he got jobs. Then when he did research on who he wanted to work for, he chose Perini. And when he got out of school, he started working at Perini, making really, really good money. And then he got an offer to run the job. He's now about 31. He got an offer to run the job for the Malaysian big casino project that's being built down on the Strip. It's going to be the newest big casino when it's done. Last Wednesday, I was with the vice chairman of Perini. I said, hey, I had a nephew that worked for you. Here's his name. He said, oh, yeah, what's he doing now? So he's over there. I said, wow, tell him we want him back. Tell him to come back. So, but that is a guy who had an idea, I want to be in construction. And then he did his research, found the companies, and then he got the position because he did the stuff that he needed to do it. So identify the 3 to 5 companies, research them, know more about them than the interviewer does. So when you get in the interview, what do you think the interviewer is going to think if you know more about his company than he does? What do you think he's going to think?
It's going to be afraid of you.
Yeah.
Okay, so there could be positive,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
this person really does want the job.
Yeah.
Or it could be this person could go postal one day. They've been stalking our company. Okay, but that comes back to what I put at the bottom line. Because of personal bias, you have to get people to like you. You could be the person who knows more about the company than the interviewer, and you could be viewed as a stalker. Are you going to get the job? No. You could know more about the company than the interviewer. You could be viewed as, wow, this person really does want to work here. Do you have a chance of getting the job? Yeah. Okay. So that's what we want to do. Today we're going to focus on the resume. What is the purpose of the resume? And the simple thing to think about it is that the resume.
Incoming call from 1-702-586-8292.
So what are the parts of getting a job? As far as you know today, if you want to get a job, Deanna, what is the process you're going through now?
Getting a resume, cover letter.
Okay, then what?
I need to know exactly what the job description is so I could give them what they want during the interview.
Okay, so people who do reactive, this is what they do. I have my resume. And the keyword is my resume. I have my resume. I'm going to look for companies that are hiring people, right? And I'm going to do what? Apply. Good. Just making sure everybody's tracking. And I'm hoping that they will do what? Interview. Okay. And then I'm hoping they're going to hire me. Right? That is the reactive process. And they make it easy for you to apply. So what do a lot of people do when it's easy to apply?
They all apply.
Huh?
They all apply.
Well, you apply to a lot of places, right? You think the more places I apply, the higher the probability I'm going to get a job, right? Is that true?
No,
Why not?
because everyone's applying people.
Hmm?
There's a lot of people applying.
Well, here's why it's not true. Because you get put into something called the horns of the dilemma. And the dilemma is the interviewer asks you the following question. Let's say you're sending out resumes because you believe the more resumes I send out, the higher the probability I'm going to get a job. And I decided I need to send out 10 resumes a day, which is not a lot for people who are really serious about looking for people to hire. You go into a place and you say, why do you want to work for us? Let's say you tell the truth and say, well, I need a job. Is that a good strategy?
No.
Okay. Why?
Because they'll think you're just working there until you find the next best thing.
Yeah. Well, what do they want looking to hire? Is there a business about we'll hire people because they want a job, because they need money to pay their bills? No. Should we hire people just because they want to pay their bills? Okay, so why do you want to work here? If you haven't done this, can you give a good answer?
No.
Say you're going to McDonald's. You haven't researched McDonald's. They say, well, why do you want to work at McDonald's? What's a good answer? It doesn't have to be true. What is a good answer?
McDonald's Corporation.
Huh?
Because McDonald's Corporation is number one in value. McDonald's.
Well, a good answer might be I want to own a McDonald's. What Stephanie said, plus, and I want to own a franchise one day. It's been my dream. I remember the first time I went to McDonald's as a little kid, I wanted to own a McDonald's. And I can't own a McDonald's if I have never worked in a McDonald's. That's not how I was raised. This would be a good answer, right? Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be true. I could have just made that up because I really want to pay my bills. Okay? This is where personal bias comes in, where the interviewer is thinking every answer you give them, are they telling the truth? And if they aren't sure, guess what isn't going to happen? They're not very good. you're not going to get a job. So you never want to go into an interview and be put in a situation where if you tell the truth, you're not going to get the job. So you might as well lie. Very bad policy to do. It doesn't work out in the long run. You end up just wasting time. Now you've got something else on your resume that you have to explain why you're not there, which could lead to another lie, right? Because if you say, if you lose the job at McDonald's because they found out you lied, and then you're in your next interview, and you say, well, why aren't you at McDonald's anymore? And you decide you're going to tell the truth, well, it's because I lied. That could probably be not good, right? It's not fatal. You do the Tiger Todd, boy, was I really stupid then. I learned my lesson. Honesty is the number one thing. Or you get put in the horns of dilemma because they say, okay, great, why do you want to work here? You give them your reason why. Let's say they believe you. They say, are you looking for work anywhere else? Now, you sent out 50 resumes. Are you looking for work anywhere else? You say, sure. I'm really trying to get a job. I'm really motivated. I can start tomorrow. Okay, well, where else are you looking? And you name 50 places. What are they now going to think?
Just
That you don't really care about them. You're just somebody who wants a job. So you're back to, why are they going to hire you? You don't care about them. You just care about getting a job and paying your bills. You're not like somebody who says, I decided the first time I went to McDonald's that I was going to own a McDonald's franchise. That's the kind of person you want to hire at McDonald's, right? Somebody who says, I remember the first time I had a meal at McDonald's. I remember the very first time I ate there, and I decided I wanted to own a McDonald's franchise one day. That's who you want to hire. You don't want to hire a guy who says, well, you know, I eat McDonald's hamburgers, but they're not my favorite. I prefer Five Guys, or I prefer In-N-Out. But you know what? I've got car payments and I have kids, so I really, really need the job. Yeah, this will do. Okay, that's not who they're going to get, because in that list of 400 people applying, or the 10 people being interviewed, somebody really does want the job. You don't want to get put in the horns of dilemma by saying, yeah, I'm interviewing in a lot of places, because as soon as you say that, they know you don't really care about them. What if you say, they ask you the question, are you looking at any other places? And you say, yeah, there's 5 companies that I have selected that I want to work. And it's 5 Guys, In-N-Out, Carl's Jr., McDonald's, and Smashburger. I only want to work at one of those 5 companies. So I've done my research. I know what I want to do. Those are the 5 companies. I'm going to work for one of those companies. Now the guy's thinking 2 things. Do I like you? Are you good enough to work for us? And if I say, that's one. Number 2 is, if I say no to you and you go work at somewhere else and you become a great employee, now I got to carry around in my brain, I let that one go. I blew it. I made a mistake. So if you're going to talk about the 3 to 5 companies and you're going to name them, and you should name them, and you have confidence, I'm going to work at one of those companies. I really want to work here. But regardless, I'll let you know where I end up. Now the guy knows if he doesn't hire you, you're going to put it in his face of where you are. So a lot of people will make decisions when it comes down to personal bias. A lot of people will decide to do something because they're afraid if they don't do it, they might get in trouble later. And you're giving them all the reasons to say yes. Told them you really want to work there. You told them why. You're only looking at 3 to 5 companies. You've done your research. And you have to be very close. You have to be likable. So you've done your research, and now they're thinking, well, maybe Marty isn't actually the best guy in terms of experience. He's never worked here at a McDonald's before. But, I've seen these guys. They've worked at other places before. Old dog, new tricks. Why bother? We start out with Marty. We start fresh. He's going to take a little bit longer. But we aren't going to have to worry. And he's really motivated. They start talking themselves into it. People who sell expensive cars all have a way to get people to have a basic way that you can get people to buy an expensive car. What is that? You get them to drive the car. You want to sell somebody a Porsche? You give them the keys, you get them in the car, you have them drive the car. If they can afford it, the belief is if this guy can afford this car, he probably can. If he can afford this car, he'll sell himself. All I have to do is give him the keys. He'll start thinking, what are other people going to think of me as I'm driving around? Boy, this is going to be fun. I've always wanted a car like this. Well, it's about $200 more than I wanted to pay per month. But, I can cut back here. I can do that. I can work extra hours. Okay, I think I can do it. They'll talk themselves into it. So when you're in your interview, you're making it easy for the guy to say yes, you can overcome burdens like not having experience. But that's way down here. We're talking here today about here. This is today's focus. Tomorrow is this. There's an interview. For today, it's the resume. You will never get here unless this passes the test. Now, when I say never, I'm putting it on the bell curve. Some people, you might need at a party or something like that. You might need in a social situation, or you get an introduction and you get an interview without the resume, but that's not the strategy to go with. Okay, the strategy to go with is you're going to go submit your resume, and then they're going to give you an interview. Anything else is just better. So a typical job today that we would want might get 400 applicants. A job that leads to financial security for stable and meaningful employment. It's stable and it's meaningful. There could be 400 people applying for that job. How much time would you say, Jesus, is the person going to spend going through those 400 resumes?
Not much.
Okay, can you be a little more precise? 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
5 minutes? Let's just say 1 minute. Okay, let's say 1 minute. Times 1 minute equals 400 minutes, right? Okay, now let's divide that by 60. And that is what? Okay, 6 goes into 40. How many times?
6 times. 6 times 6 is 36.
Okay, and there's 4 left over, right? Yep. So 6.66 hours, right? If they spend 1 minute, they're going to spend 6 hours and 40 minutes. Are they going to spend 6 hours and 40 minutes? No. What do they actually need to spend? About 1 hour. 1 hour max tops. Okay. So if you say 400 divided by 60 minutes, is how long? So you should be able to just do this now. Go to a 120, 180. And so you say, what's 60 times 60 minutes times 60 seconds is what? What's 60 times 60?
636.
It's 306.
3,600. Okay. So you have 3,600 seconds in an hour, right? There are 60 minutes in an hour, and there's 60 seconds in a minute. So 60 times 60 is 3,600 divided by 400 equals 9 seconds. I saw something on YouTube that said 7 seconds. How to look at a resume in 7 seconds. What can you see on a resume in 7 seconds? Or 9, 10, let's just make it 10 seconds. What can you see?
The name, the address.
The work history.
I don't think you have to tell us work history. I would probably want to be the last one he looks at.
Huh?
Because he's gonna forget the first one he looks at, right? I
What?
said just the name, the address.
Okay, so here's 9 seconds. Starting now. So I'm looking at a resume. So maybe next time we'll do an exercise. We'll have everybody have the next person's resume. We'll just hand it to the person to our left and say, okay, go. Pick it up, turn it over, read it, stop, put it down. And then say, now what do you remember from that person's resume?
Probably not.
So they're not going to read it because you can't make a decision if you can't remember anything, right? And you're going to have 400 in your brain. Okay, here's the number 1. Here's how he ranks. No, here's what they do. They're going to pick up the resume and they're going to look at it. They're not going to read it. They're going to look at it to see if it looks professional. Does it have proper spacing? Does it have different sizes? Are some things bold? Some things underlined? Are there indentations? Does it look good? That's what they're looking for, number 1. The first 1 or 2 seconds. Does this look good? If it's handwritten and words are crossed out, what are they going to think? Okay, let's say it's typewritten and they have whiteout on there. No, okay? They're going to look at it for a couple seconds to see whether it looks good. That's all they're going to do. Then, for the remaining the next couple seconds, they're going to look to see if there's any punctuation, grammar, or spelling errors. And then the last thing they're going to do for the last couple seconds that they're going to say is, okay, which box do I put this in? The no, not interested at all. The yes, absolutely want to interview this person. Or the maybe. Because they have 400 minutes. They got to go through these things and get it down to 10 people to interview. So the first pass through, boom, yes, no, maybe. Next, yes, no, maybe. Yes, no, maybe. Yes, no, maybe. Because in their brain, they're saying, you know what? When I get done going through these 400, where do I go next? What's the next thing I do? Which box do I look at?
Yes.
Okay, what do I look for in the yes box? Okay, why do I go to the yes box?
Because that's what you want.
For the people for the interview?
Well, why would I need a maybe box?
Yes, no.
Because if
They
you're going to go
might
on
not
this
have the
box,
art
first
skills,
thing
but they-
Okay, so next, Jesus is right. I go to the yes box and I count up and see how many yeses are in there. Because I only need to interview how many people? 10. I obviously don't need to care about the no. Those are no. I don't even need to know them. I don't need to know about the maybe right now. When do I need to look at the maybes?
if you're out of your time on the yes.
Yeah. Okay? So yes doesn't mean yes, I want to interview. It means yes, I want to read this one because I think I want to interview. So there could be 20 or 30 in here because this just passed the 9-second test. Actually, probably about 7 seconds, and 2 seconds was deciding which box to put it in. So the next thing they do is they go through the yeses and they see how many are in there. They just count. Okay, there's 12. Let's say the guy says there's 7. What's he going to do next?
Go to the maybe box.
Okay. He might do that, but probably will read these. So when he gets to this box, he has a good idea of what to match it up against. Okay, because these yeses are going to form a bell curve also. Some are going to be really, really good on all bases. Some are going to be good on only 1 or 2 things. When he gets done with these, and let's say he has 7, he goes to this box over here, he's going to look for people that are going to be like this on this curve. From the yes box, he's going to look for top people out of here. And he only said maybe because the resume didn't look perfect. That's why he said maybe. It had nothing to do with qualifications. The ideal person could have ended up in the no box. Why'd they end up in the no box?
The resume.
Yeah, it didn't pass the smell test or just the sight glance test. It didn't pass the 7-second. I'm going to look at this thing test. And the idea is, if you know resume gets you interviewed. You know how important the resume is. If you can't send me a perfect resume, this is the way these people think. They're personal bias. If you can't send me a personal resume, you can't be the ideal person. Maybe you're good enough. I'm not looking for somebody who's good enough. I've got 400 opportunities to get the best pair of pants that there is in the store, not just the best pair of pants I've ever had. This guy's looking for the best pair of pants in the store, to use that other analogy. Okay? So the best pair of pants could have been in the stack that was wadded up and thrown over in the corner, but he didn't bother looking at that. He went to the one where it had the nicest display. It was out in front, right? If you go in the store, most people don't go scrounging through the back and say, where's the pile of pants that people tried on that need to be refolded? Most people don't do that. The ideal pair of pants could be in that stack. Your ideal pair of pants could be in that stack, but we don't bother with that stack. So, again, the ideal person could be in the no pile, but their resume wasn't right. And in the brain of the person who's doing the interviews, it's, if they can't do their resume right, they're not going to be perfect anyway. I'm not going to lose any sleep over wondering, did I miss the right person here? Should I spend 1 minute? Should I spend a whole day looking at these people? They're not going to do that because they have too much pressure from their boss. The boss is going to say, look, we don't have time to read everybody's resume. And you say, well, I want to get the ideal person. And then the boss would say, well, you know what? To get the ideal person, we're going to have to give everybody an assessment test. And we're going to have to do that. And we might as well hire everybody for a week. Okay, we're not going to get the ideal person. So personal bias comes in. The point is the resume has to be perfect. The resume we have, the sample we have, has been scientifically designed to look perfect, but not look the same. Okay, so at Casa Grande, some mediocre person several years ago said, this format of resume is this year's best resume. And now it's, well, this is the resume we use. Okay. The reality is, when you have your 3 to 5 companies, how many resumes do you think you have? Yeah, you have a different resume for each employer. Because even though they might be in the exact same business, Remember the TED Talk about Simon Sinek about what's the difference between Apple and Hewlett Packard? Anybody remember that? He says, why do people like Apple? They can buy the same equipment from the same suppliers, but some people are very loyal to Apple. They just love Apple. And it's not because of what you do, it's what? No. Wrong. Why? Why you do what you do.
Why?
Okay? And Apple articulates why. When you're submitting your resume to these employers, you need to speak their language. So my grandfather from Missouri didn't swear, but sometimes he did swear. And when people say, well, hey, Richard, you don't swear. Why do you swear? When you swear, why do you swear? He said, because if you want to talk to a jackass, you have to speak its language. Okay? So if you really are doing your job with these, you don't have one resume that you're sending to 10 people. So when you get in this box here, or this box here, you've done your research. You know what their website says in the section about us, and you look for keywords that they use. And what do you think you put in your resume when you're describing yourself? Those words. So a car is a car is a car, right? No. If you go look at the Maserati site and how they talk about Maseratis, completely different than Toyota. Do you think Maserati wants to hire people who are Toyota people that speak the Toyota language? You know, what's the Toyota language? All you need to do is keep air in the tires, water, oil, gas. This car will run forever. Okay, right? So that's a Toyota.
No.
Is that all Maserati?
No.
No. Maseratis are for people who think of their car as a member of their family. They like just sitting in it. They like thinking of themselves sitting in it. They like thinking of themselves driving it. Do people spend a lot of time that own Toyotas thinking of themselves driving their Toyota after the first 6 months? No, they don't. So why would you want to give the same resume to a Maserati dealer as you would a Toyota dealer? You wouldn't. Okay, but what do? We have my resume. Here's my resume. So in the second pass through, the first pass through, it has to be perfect. The second pass through, they're asking the question, does this guy fit in with us? David Logan, anybody remember David Logan? TED Talk, Tribes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did he say about Zappos? What are they looking for? People who are, no. Don't guess. Stephanie, you have this bad, you two guys have this bad habit of just throwing stuff out there. No, he did not say happy people. He said people who are a little bit weird.
Okay.
And they are.
Happy people.
Go check it. That's exactly what he said. People know. Weird people are not necessarily happy. They're weird. That's why they're called weird people, not happy people. So he said at Zappos, they look for people who are a little bit weird. And they are, is what he said. Because this is when they had the little video tour. They don't know who we are. They don't care. And if they didn't know, they wouldn't care anyway. So you find these people, you research them, you know more about them than the interviewer. But it starts with the resume. The resume is the ticket to the interview. If you don't have a good resume, you're going to end up here. Or maybe here. But you're not going to end up here. And these are the people who are going to get the interview. So the resume is vital. And you need to have a form that's going to pass the 7-second test. So in other words, it has to be laid out well. And one of the things you want them to hopefully see that they just might see, and they're only spending 5 seconds to kind of skim through looking for grammar, punctuation, typing errors, or looking for that, there's little keywords that you might want them to see. One of which is cloud, the cloud. Okay, because that's something that will stick in their brain, because it's going to be different. Because nobody else, unless they graduate from here, is going to put the words the cloud on their resume. Now, if you use the Casa Grande resume, I'm not really picking on, just using this example because everybody knows that resume. If you use that resume, does it say the cloud?
No.
No. Why not?
Because nobody knows it.
They don't teach the cloud. Okay? So, one of the reasons we are putting a campus in Casa Grande is because as things get more sophisticated, like you can submit your resume online, there's software that looks for keywords in your resume and will flag them. So if you don't have keywords the employer is looking for, you're not going to get flagged. Flagged is good in this case.
Yeah.
Okay, you won't get flagged. How are you going to know what the keywords are?
By the research.
Exactly. You do your research. And you're doing your research to know more about the company than the interviewer knows and find key words and ideas. How hard is it to modify your resume? How hard do you think it would be, to modify your resume to change keywords for different employers? How long do you think it might take?
Like 2 minutes.
Okay, well, I was looking for more like an hour. Okay, let's say it's an hour. Let's say you can do it in 2 minutes, but let's say you say, I'm going to have 5 resumes. I'm going to end up with 5 resumes, and I'm going to spend an hour on each resume. Is that a big investment?
No, not really.
No, it's a small investment. You're talking about that's 1 hour. If you work 40 hours a week, that was a good investment of your time. I spent 1 hour to create a customized resume for that employer, and that's possibly what got me the job. But if I sent out on an online, especially when you're doing online applications, expect that they have software that's looking for keywords. Expect that. And so what happens is, as technology helps people apply for jobs, it also helps the people who are interviewing people for jobs. Don't just think, oh, this is making it a lot easier. So here's what we say. God, I can submit online. I can do 10 resumes in the time I could do 5 before. God, this is great. What do you think the interviewer is saying? He's saying, God, this is great. I don't even have to read 2/3 of the emails anymore because it's flagging for keywords. And I don't have to waste time if somebody sends in a resume that doesn't have any keywords on it. So as technology makes it easier for consumers, it makes it easier for employers. And who do you think it makes it easier for first?
Employers.
Employers. Why? Because they'll pay.
They'll pay.
They'll pay to have a better process for interviewing people. Will we pay?
No.
No, we don't want to pay somebody to help us do a resume. So find keywords. So you read these things and you find keywords. And you include those in your resume. And that's why on your drive, you should have a folder that says work. And in work, you have resumes, research. You have another folder called cover letters. You have another folder called your supporting documents. And licenses, permits, or anything that you have like that. So in your drive, you have it broken down. So you have all of these files or these folders, so you can put files in. And you have a resume that is for employer 1, employer 2, employer 3. So if you ever want to know, well, what resume did I send this guy? You can get it on your smartphone, or you can just print, here's the resume I sent them. If you go back 6 months later and apply again, what do you do with your resume for employer 1? Update it. So then you have 1.1b, or you might call it, it's for employer 1, but you have resume number 2. You keep the old one, and you have your updated one. Wow, we've really gone over, haven't we? Time flies when you're having fun. I gotta get to Casa Grande. Okay.
Is supporting what?
Supporting document.
Supporting documents. So any licenses you have, permits, copies of your social security card,